Hello, welcome to the Necron Destroyers for beginners. So this video, as by the title of it, will be covering all of the destroyers, pretty much from Locust to Ophidian. I thought it'd be a nice follow-up to the Flayed One video because, well, Flayed Ones and destroyers pair nicely now in the tabletop, but they have a lot of similarities, and hopefully you'll notice them as the video progresses. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much for your feedback. Really appreciate actually this advice. And the guy that says dual flip, I'm learning, I'm practicing. That's a lie, I forgot. Yeah, so please keep posting. Give me more advice. Even tell me if you want to see a specific video. Yeah. Feel free to like, possibly even subscribe, and write a comment down below. That out of the way, destroyers are an all-encompassing term for a lot of the quote-unquote crazy Necrons that live sort of outside of the dynasty. What does this mean? Well, when something like an immortal or a death mark wants to sort of kill more, they start seeking these or developing these tendencies to murder more, right? And that just sort of happens eventually over time as they get more and more exposed to war and the destroyer cult. And eventually they start going insane and want to become like the Locust Destroyer or Scorpic Destroyers, depending on which variety or variant of destroyer they want to be. Often Lich-Guard will become either Scorpic or Ophidian destroyers, the more melee-oriented ones, and you'll see stuff like Immortals and Deathmarks will become the Locust Destroyers or the Locust Heavy Destroyers. It's correlation, not causation, but often that's the way it goes. And I will give a bit of a disclaimer. A lot of these new destroyers don't have too much lore on them, or rather too much like very canon lore. However, I'm sort of just scrounging around the best I can, and also just stuff from the top of my head from previous editions. So yeah, destroyers do not want to become flesh again. This is a canon thing. They have given up all desire to return back to being people in pursuit of more destruction and murder. They're just deranged agents of annihilation. And their sole existence is legit just getting rid of life. They hate living things. And they're quite aggressive, if you can't tell by, quote, these deranged agents of annihilations, you know? And another quote, their sole existence is quenching the flames of life. They don't like living things. And by God, they'll do everything in their power to make you stop living. So they're very aggressive. It reflects also on the tabletop. Faster, some are tankier, some are not so tanky, but generally they are faster and prefer a more aggressive fighting style. They're also not exactly slow. The heavy destroyers still move 8 inches. They purposefully remove their legs and put themselves on these floating chassis to become heavy weapons platforms. They want to eradicate life as fast as possible. They hate living things, so naturally, because they're already machines, Admech eat your heart out, they go more machine to get rid of life. Cool. They also have plasmacytes. I don't really know what they are. I think they are canoptic. They're not people. They're not living things. They're just little helper bots that don't really fight, but give good buffs. Like, really good buffs. Like, devastating wounds once per battle. And that, very nice, especially Heavy Destroyer with the anti-tank weapon with lethal hits and devastating wounds. Ain't nothing surviving that. So yeah, they follow them around and help them out. But I've been saying a lot of names, so let's really categorize these guys. Destroyers kind of fall into the three main types. You got Scorpeg, Ophidian, and Locust. And you'll see this in the codex. It'll be written Scorpeg Destroyers, Ophidian Destroyers. They all have like, I think, Destroyer Cult or some Destroyer keyword. Well, they'll have their own subsector or subsection, which essentially just says what fighting style they like, which they mutilate their bodies pretty much to become better at. So yeah, pretty much the Locust Destroyers are ranged specialists. They use guns, they use their Gauss weapons. I think they have a Gauss Destroyer and a Gauss Annihilator, maybe? Yeah, that sounds correct. However, they also have a heavier variant, which has an anti-infantry specialized one and an anti-tank specialized weapon. They specialize with ranged weapons, and that's your Locust Destroyers. Your Ophidian Destroyers are your fast murder bots, like very fast. They have movement 10, and when they're not engaged in combat, they can be put into reserves to deep strike back on the board. Very good with movement, and this reflects because they're supposed to be these teleporting, translocating maniacs that can phase through walls and just sort of disappear and reappear. And also, as a neat little thing, they are a redesigned or reimagined model that is supposed to be based on the original. Oh my god, I've forgotten the name. Wraiths. The original Wraiths, Necron Wraiths. The ones that are like almost bugs with tails. If you look at the Ophidian Destroyers, that's what they originally sort of looked like. Except instead of having their massive blades, they had talons, like flayed ones. But yeah. Ophidian Destroyers are faster melee specialized units. They still have the Plasma Sight, which gives them devastating wounds on their 5 attacks per model anti-infantry weapon. And very nice to bring along as a specialist unit or not, because I believe they come in up to 6 models, which can be 30 attacks out of a unit. That can be anywhere you want it to be. Lastly, then you have the Scorpegs, who, very similarly to the Ophidians, prefer melee combat, but generally they are heavier and more anti-elite specialized. So imagine Deathmarks go become Locust Heavy Destroyers, Immortals go become Locust Destroyers, and your more melee guys, such as Lichguard, will go out and become your Ophidian or Scorpeg Destroyers, depending on whether they like to be fast or whether they like to be damage. So yeah, Scorpeg Destroyers are that very slower than Ophidians, not very slow. All Destroyers are relatively fast, but slower melee specialized unit with very hard-hitting weapons. Their Hyperphase blades are mean, very mean. And that's generally Scorpegs. Came out in 9th edition, very fun. Destroyers, however, are also led by a Destroyer Lord, because Destroyers generally are insane, which means they're crazy.
Crazy? I was crazy once. They locked me in a room, a rubber room with rats. And rats make me crazy. Crazy? I was crazy once. They locked me in a room, a rubber room with rats. And rats make me crazy. Crazy? I was crazy once. They locked me in a room, a rubber room with rats.
And they aren't very coordinated. They just see life and want to eliminate it. Destroyer Lords, on the other hand, such as the Locust Destroyer Lord or the Scorpeg Destroyer Lord, combine that madness with their sheer commanding tenacity and ability to lead, which makes destroyers even more scary, because led by a destroyer lord, they can really wreak some havoc. And you'll see this particularly with Locust Destroyer pairing with a Locust Squad, Heavy Destroyers, Normal Destroyers, whatever, giving them buffs, or a Scorpion Destroyer Lord with his massive fuck-off weapons pairing up with the Scorpion Destroyers. So yeah. And that covers the lore section. Yeah. Just to recap, Destroyers are crazy, want to kill life. Break down to 3 types. Ophidian is fast and spindly, Scorpion is fast and deadly, and Locust is fast with guns. So, how does this show on the tabletop? Scorpix are probably one of the more favored destroyers. Players that have older armies, 8th edition and before armies, you'll often see older models with the Lego Yoda lightsaber in there, with normal destroyers and heavy destroyers. They're a bit of a fan favorite, but 9th edition introduced the Scorpex, which are a very good melee alternative. They are a fast, good, anti-elite melee unit that is tough enough to survive most flak and gunfire. Anything that is designed for anti-infantry often wounds on 5s on them, maybe 4s. They also have Whirling Assault, which allows them to reroll hit rolls of 1, but when they charge, flat-out hit rolls, which is really nice, especially with their low attacks but high strength AP and 2 damage weapons. So generally, they're a bit of a frontline bum rush unit that is meant to pick off, say, oh no, do you have some Blight Lord Terminators over there? Throw Scorpix at it. Oh no, there's Tyrant Guard over there. Scorpix over there. There's Space Marine Terminators over there. Scorpix over there. They're pretty much this maneuverable anti-elite squad with a very good reroll hit rolls of 1. Very nice. Ophidians, on the other hand, are not meant to be anti-elite by their stats. They have 2 more attacks than your Scorpex, however, weaker weapons. A lot of armor penetration, and I think they still do 2 damage, so it seems very anti-Space Marine. But generally, 5 attacks per model with up to 6 models, meaning 30 attacks with, I believe, sustained fire 1, means that often you're going to see them picking off infantry units, and they're fast, crazy fast, with the ability to deep strike naturally and be moved off the board to use their deep strike ability again when they're not in combat. So they're this very fast melee unit with good anti-infantry, but they're a bit fragile. They're only toughness 5, I believe, or toughness 4, whereas Locusts and Scorpex are 6, 7 sometimes, I think. They can be placed into reserves, but I think they're a bit better just put on the tabletop to rush out into objectives. They don't have the reroll hit rolls of 1 on objectives like the Locusts. However, they're just fast units that are good for picking off infantry, and infantry especially meant to cap objectives like your Space Marine Intercessor Squad, like some Tempestus Scions, which are just sit down and shoot, or generally anything that's 10 models about, easily sliced and diced by these Ophidians. Lastly, then, you have Locusts. Now, Locust Destroyers and Locust Heavy Destroyers serve 2 different purposes. Even the Heavy Destroyers, depending on their loadout, will also serve 2 different purposes within that unit. Locust Heavy Destroyers are a fast, ranged unit with okay anti-elites. Their lethal hits is nice, but there's only 3 attacks, and I don't see sustained hits. I don't have the codex, so this is off by memory, but I don't remember them being very good. It's practically a squad of heavy bolters. They have varied squad sizes, though, which means you can field them by themselves in squads of 2, 3, and 6. Those are your squad sizes in 10th edition. They reroll hit rolls of 1 naturally for their Destroyer call. However, they also reroll hit rolls near objectives, which makes them very good at sit on objective, get rid of elite unit near objective, move to next objective, repeat. So that's your Locusts. Heavy Destroyers, on the other hand, are the opposite ends of the spectrum, with Locust Destroyers being a nice medium sort of middleman. Smaller sizes, more expensive, however they can either have a good anti-infantry weapon with 6 attacks, rapid fire 6, and I believe sustained hits, or a very good anti-tank weapon, firing 1 attack, however strength 14, AP 3, and 6 damage, flat. Very nice. Their weapons also reroll ones against their intended targets. The 6 attack weapons will reroll hit rolls of 1 against infantry units, however it does not apply to monster or vehicle keyword units. On the other hand, their anti-vehicle weapon rerolls hit rolls of 1, it's the same thing but different, against vehicle and monster keyword units, but do not gain benefits for shooting at infantry. Right? So that's the spectrum. Heavy Destroyer with gun for wall of bullets, Locusts for getting rid of the elites, and the same units with a different loadout for that tank over there. They come in squad sizes of 1, 2, or 3. Much more expensive, but much more specialized. They're very nice. And yeah, that generally covers Destroyers. Bit of a shorter video today, but who knows? Maybe shorter is better, maybe longer is better. Let me know. Yeah, this is just a overarching thing. All Destroyers, they're fun. They're good units to either base an army around, or just put in an already existing army to give some style to your force. They pair very nicely with flayed ones, because that detachment, the Annihilation Protocol detachment, my beloved, oh my god. However, yeah, they're just a fun unit, fun models, great at paint. Absolutely, 10 out of 10 stellar. If you liked the video, please like. If you think it's very nice, possibly even really liked it, hit that subscribe button down below. Doesn't hurt, ain't gonna kill you. Please, I beg, I need food. And comment what you want to see next. More Necron stuff? I'm happy to do more Necron stuff, but it's going to be more generalized, so stuff that's already out there, rather than something that I think isn't out there. Or I don't know, you can say something very specific. I want lore from Oberon. Him, that man, my man.
Rocky Road McDonald's.